All right, the next candidate that we will hear from is Bob Buckle.
Thanks, Chris. Here we go. Alrighty. Pete, Trevor, Chamber, the Reeve candidates, thank you for attending today. Ladies and gentlemen, I know somebody gave up the hockey game, so nice to have you here listening and caring. My name's Bob Buckle. I've had the privilege and the honor of serving for the last 2 terms on council. I have a diverse 27-year background in business, having served also in public service and law enforcement with the RCMP. I believe I bring an informed and an experienced perspective to council. Since being elected in 2007, the city has experienced many changes, with the most significant being the improvement of its financial sustainability. I take pride, along with council, what has been accomplished over those 2 years or 2 terms as a councillor. I've seen many large infrastructure programs come online, the Harborview Centre being turned over to the seniors, a long-term agreement with the Ag Society Centre and the grounds, and of course the Air Weapons Range agreement in itself. Moving forward, I see many new challenges approaching the city: affordable housing, rental bubbles, public transit, larger public services facilities, and a need for greater MD cost-sharing initiatives, all the while as the necessity to grow out the city and with available lands. I personally had gotten on council as well over the alarming tax rate increases and the lack of services being provided. So at the end of the day, I guess overall, I'm a competitive tax rate candidate, one who's not afraid to invest and enhance the livability of Cold Lake, through our parks, our walking paths, our facilities. I really want to see the beach and the marina area be improved to be the signature piece it deserves to be in this community, which has been somewhat ignored. Moving on to the questions regarding affordable housing, I have a different take. We have an inventory issue affecting housing. That this has pushed up prices. It's created a rental bubble with the temporary workers in town, the transient employment has spiked this rate, and it's really injured and hurt the ability of single moms and youth and those that are most vulnerable in our community that were here before and want to stay. So my strategy moving forward for this issue is to continue to incentivize the building of multi-living units. You've heard some of it today. A lot of it's the same type of information. We've gotten some good hits on our incentive program, and I think it's going to bode well for the community over the long term. This was an initiative, the incentive package that was brought forward for multi-living was brought forward by the Economic Development Advisory Committee and adopted by council, and very much appreciative of the hard work that was done on that committee by those people to start the ball going on that. But I also am supporting, respectfully contrary to some of the on council, the attraction and development of temporary accommodation should any employer or company be interested in investing. This, of course, would only be done under the terms and conditions that were favorable and acceptable to the community. I feel this is important because the temporary rental bubble is exactly that. You're not going to get long-term building of apartments based on that temporary bubble of rental. You get a pipeline coming through, oil expansion coming through for 18 months, dropping 1,000 employees in the community. No developer is going to go out there and build an apartment block for them. But those people are going to cause havoc in the community when it comes to rental rates with your locals that are trying to eke out an existence. That's what has to be addressed. And that's why I call it a bubble, not to be accused with affordable housing, because affordable housing has always been an issue in this community, and it's gotten even worse, of course, with the present demand. And we've got some good initiatives, and we've taken some good action as a council to move in that direction to address many of that, and I think it's going to have a good long-term impact or effect, but it's not going to do away with the bubble. This bubble is going to last another year, 2 years, then it's going to go away on the temporary employees. But you know what? 3 years, 4 years from now, depending what happens with pipelines, it's going to come back again. So I'm about positioning the community through its land use bylaws, through its policies, to be able to entertain the idea of putting up a temporary structure to house some of those pipeline workers and that, get them off the street so we don't have 18 cars piled up on half a block. You know, that people aren't renting bedrooms out for $1,000 a month and then turning around evicting their existing tenants, which is what's happening. I've seen it with my own employees at my store. It's sad, and I believe something has to happen. Now, you know, I don't buy into the idea that somehow just leave the situation alone and work its way out. That has been said by some. But to me, that just, I hear ignore it, maintain the status quo and deny the issue. I don't believe that's leadership. I don't believe that that's what people are looking for council on the affordability issue. As I said, you've got the straight inventory amount of homes and multi-units that need to be addressed, and they are being addressed, but you also have these short-term demands that are going to be spiked into the community depending on what happens with pipelines and oil development. And no amount of apartment blocks being built are going to deal with 1,000, 2,000 employees coming into the community for the next 18 months or 8 months. And that's what we're having to contend with. I think the council should continue to partner with things like Habitat for Humanity, continue to look at it and review its bylaws and rezoning to encourage as much multi-dwelling as possible. I think the federal government you know, should be looking at doing some rental tax credits for qualified candidates. I think that's something that could be lobbied, and I would continue to support the Northern Allowance aspect for funding for qualified candidates. But all in all, you know, I think when we talk about temporary housing or temporary accommodation, that's required for the a temporary solution for a temporary problem, basically, is what I'm saying on that, as we move forward with all the other initiatives which we're getting good hits on. As far as the regional water issue, a question that was brought forward, I've been immersed into this issue since coming to council. I've served on the Regional Utility Service Commission since coming to council in 2007. I presently chair that commission. We were the ones responsible for withdrawing the application, and no, it wasn't just a hypothetical. They had approval to bring the pipeline to Bonnyville. They had the funding in place, and it was the City of Cold Lake Council petitioning the Russick Commission to withdraw the application, and we did, putting forward many different questions, most of them surrounding capacity issues and downstream users issues. What's happened in the meantime with that is the government has come back and gave a presentation to council answering all the specific questions we gave them regarding those. And they did have answers for them. And whether we like those answers or not, that's what ended up happening. That's where we are today. And the downstream users, unfortunately, did not get supported by the province of Saskatchewan. So the province of Saskatchewan told the province of Alberta, do what you want. We're okay. So knowing that we don't control the water, it's not our water. All we do is have a license for our water treatment plant. We will continue, as I think most on council, suggesting that the North Saskatchewan River is the more suitable, viable, and sustainable action to be taken. We are trying to convince the province that even though it may cost a few extra nickels to bring that water up into the Northeast region, it would be beneficial over the long term, especially if you're going to grow at industry and take that pipe a lot further than just Bonnyville. So that will continue to be my position. I believe it's a position of most on council presently, and I'd like to see that. But it would, having said that, it would be reckless not to have a backup plan, not to have a strategy moving forward on what are you going to do if the province comes in and says, no, well, we heard your concerns, but you know what, we're going to send the water down south anyways. And here's the, you know, we're not going to have any, we can't scramble at that time and say, oh, well, wait a minute, what about this? So it's important that we have a position, and my position is that we continue to maintain the stewardship of the water treatment plant, and that the utility commission be run and managed by the City of Cold Lake. That way we have the expertise on that water treatment plant. That way we have control of that water as it's going out. We run it as a corporation with dividends paid back to the taxpayers. And I think that that's the best position that we have. If they're going to force the issue on us, I think we have a fallback position of saying we run our commission as a corporation. We run our water treatment plants with the City of Cold Lake and its residents that have proven themselves for stewardship on the water and expertise in maintaining that would continue moving forward. So that's kind of the idea, the thought process I have on that. And other than that, I'm ready for the question.
All right, Bob Buckle. One of two questions. 10 seconds.
Which one did you want?
If elected, what would be your top priority?
Put a final nail into that air weapons range transition in 2016. From there, everything else comes.
Thank you. Bob Buckle up next.
6 years ago, I stood in this very room and promised you that I would work hard to make this city sustainable. If you recall back then, we had several years of substantial tax increases, 35%, with no new services, no new facilities, no major capital work being done. We as a city were quickly approaching our debt limit. Frankly, revenues were not realistically keeping up to the community needs. The future was dismal, discouraging, and even downright depressing. Since that time, along with council and under the leadership of His Worship Mayor Copeland, our efforts to become sustainable was achieved. When you consider the twinning of Highway 28, completion of the phases of the Energy Center, construction of the new FCSS building, and for the first time ever, a 3-year $50 million capital budget, it's amazing, especially since it was all accomplished with little or no tax increases. I'm committed to see that 10-year capital plan that council developed go ahead. Now, I'll tell you that these accomplishments by council and His Worship were not easy. There were detractors, there were obstructionists, and there were naysayers. However, council stuck to its vision and was committed to its principles and fought hard for the future of with the Air Weapons Range Agreement. An agreement I am committed to see through to its completion, as outlined in the Memorandum of Understanding. The full transition of the Air Weapons Range in 2016 is, as I had said previously, the last board to be hammered in completing the deal that was negotiated and agreed upon between the City of Cold Lake and the Government of Alberta. This deal is so fundamentally important to the future sustainability of Cold Lake that it's built right into our 10-year plan. You've heard other people around the neighborhood want a piece of that deal, want to attack that deal, try to refer to it as a 5-year term. Make no mistake, that was a transitional deal for full assessment to come to the City of Cold Lake at the end of 5 years. I will not stand by and let somebody try to present something different on that deal or try to murky the waters with the Government of Alberta. I do not intend to see that deal interfered with or altered by others. When I look at where we were versus where we are, I see nothing but opportunities. There'll be challenges, of course. We'll need to prioritize naturally, but I look forward to these and feel Cold Lake is well positioned to take on those challenges and have an even better future. In closing, I would say to you, no matter who you support, please vote. But if you're happy with the job that's being done by council and the direction of council for the last 2 terms, then I say please vote for me, vote for Bob Buckle. I will be honored to work alongside Mayor Copeland and the rest of council to continue to build the future in the viability, livability of this fabulous city. I thank you for coming out tonight. I thank you for bearing with us all as you've listened to a lot of the same speeches. But there is a decision to be made, and I urge you to get out on October 21st. Thank you for your patience.